Hi, everyone, and welcome to How Have We Never Seen This Before? This is a podcast where two best friends discuss iconic movies that, well, neither of us have ever seen before. I'm Isabel,
And I'm Lauren.
and this is How Have We Never Seen This Before? Hope you enjoy. So, the winner of Guess the Movie of the Week this week is one of my good friends, Levi. He actually gets a shout out later in the episode when we're talking about the prom scene. So, congratulations to Levi. You get 2 shout outs this week. If you want to be the person to be given the shout out at the beginning of one of our episodes, make sure to follow us over on Instagram at How Have We Never Podcast and check our stories each week for several clues on what the movie might be and be the first one to guess. All right, before we get into the movie, Lauren had a couple points she wanted to make, so go ahead.
Yes, so before we even start talking about the specifics in the movie, I just wanted to address the racial bias in this film. This film has a major diversity problem in all aspects, but what I really wanted to mention is the lack of racial diversity specifically. So, first of all, after I watched the movie, I read an article on Bookster that said that Stephenie Meyer fought Catherine Hardwicke, the director, on casting in reference to representation. So Hardwicke wanted all of the Cullens to have different skin tones and all look different because they're not related, so they could. But Stephenie Meyer rejected that idea and only allowed one of the antagonist vampires to be played by a black man, which is just awful. And Bella's friends were allowed to be played by people with different skin tones, but the vampires couldn't. So that was my first major problem with the racial diversity in it.
Yeah, and especially like you think that the one vampire who is black, you come to assume that he might be a villain. Like only vampires who are black, bad vampires. So yeah.
Yeah, and you may be thinking to yourself, oh, what about the Native American aspect of the film? But the story kind of perpetuates Native American stereotypes, such as the whole wolf tribe aspect. It kind of exemplifies the, I'm using air quotes right now, noble savage archetype in the sense that people in the tribe are part animal. And also, they didn't even trace Taylor Lautner to any Native American tribes until after casting. So he's barely Native American. He is mostly European. So yikes.
Yeah, and honestly, they were barely in this movie at all, which I thought there was a much bigger part, like they had a much bigger role to play in the movie, but I guess not.
I think in the next two films they do, but they just introduce them in this one.
Okay. Yeah, I always thought it was like that love triangle started right away, but it really wasn't that important.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode comes after the protests surrounding George Floyd's murder, and we took the 2 weeks off out of respect because we didn't think it was appropriate for us to record, and we also decided to instead use the small platform that we have to amplify Black podcaster voices. So if you go to our Instagram, you can check out some podcasts specifically relating to racial injustices, and then also movie review podcasters that are Black as well. So with that, we will, I guess, get into discussing the movie this week. And I wanted to say, like, this doesn't have anything to do with what we just talked about, but before watching the movie, I have seen the second half of the final book movie, so I've seen the very end of these. I've never seen the first
Why?
one. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
So I like knew, like, nothing was like a surprise.
I honestly think I might have seen this before, like vaguely, maybe when I was falling asleep one time, because I remember like the baseball scene for some reason. I also see a bunch of those scenes in TikToks, so I'm not really sure. I can't distinguish what I actually saw and what I saw on TikTok. So
There's like a meme that comes from this that I've seen, so I kind of knew some of that. But okay, so right when the movie starts, we have Bella, Kristen Stewart narrating, and you're watching a deer run through the forest. And Bella's narration at the beginning made me think she was gonna die. She
yeah.
was like, it's better to be killed defending someone you love or something instead of
Dying for someone.
it was very strange, and I didn't really get the point of it because no one really dies, like except like random
Well,
attacks.
I can see where this line comes into play at the end, so once we get there, I can explain it, but I don't want to give anything away just yet. Even
Oh,
though I'm pretty sure everyone on this planet has seen this movie except us.
yeah. I kind of felt dumb for not have seen this, but at the same time I was super glad I hadn't
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was a waste of time. Okay. So after the deer, we see Bella in the desert, and I was like, "What? Like what just happened?" Because I was like, "There's no forests in Arizona, like rainy forests in Arizona." um but then it says originally she's from Washington. She's going to be moving back there after her mom has gotten remarried and they're going to travel the country.
So, her mom is basically abandoning her, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you so much."
I don't get it. Like, why don't you go with your mom? Like, I don't know.
I don't get it.
They get to Florida super fast. It's not like they're gone for months just traveling, but whatever. But I also said, how would anyone believe she's from Arizona if she's so pale? And they say that later in the movie too. So once her mom's like, yeah, I'm abandoning you, I'm traveling around the world with my new husband, she flies to Washington and her dad picks her up from the airport and they drive to his house.
We also find out that her dad is a police officer.
Oh my gosh, I've
Defund the police.
I've recently noticed how prevalent police are in any TV show, movies, like everything. The police are everywhere.
Hmm.
And I was just like this, like I'm like looking at all of this in a different light.
So am I.
Crazy. Like most of the TV shows, we have so many cop shows.
I also feel like in every TV show, there's like a sheriff.
Yeah,
Just like one of the main characters, a sheriff. You know?
sure. uh,
Also, her dad is kind of hot.
so I like
I wish he.
Charlie, not like that, but I like Charlie. He seems good.
I wish he wasn't a police officer.
I feel bad for him, like as a dad.
Yeah, I guess. Imagine having Bella as a daughter.
Yeah. What she says to him later. Oh,
Oh,
but also, so like when she gets into the house, like starts to like put her stuff in her room, he immediately leaves. She's like,
yeah.
the one thing that's nice about Charlie is that he doesn't hover. But your daughter just is going to live with you for several months now and you don't even talk to her. You don't help her unpack. You just leave.
That's Charlie for you, I guess.
I felt like awful.
Bad parenting.
Yeah, on both everyone's part. But anyway, so then Jacob and his dad pull up to Charlie's house and he shows Charlie shows Bella this truck that he's gotten her as a like a welcome home, like you're here present kind of, and Jacob's the one who fixed the car up and everything. But this is when you see Jacob's long hair and it's so bad. But there's this meme where it's like when most girls tuck their hair behind their ears and it's a picture of Kendall Jenner. And then it's like when I tuck my hair behind my ears and it's a picture of him.
Oh my god.
And I felt so bad. But also, yeah, that's me when I tuck my hair behind my ears.
But I love Jacob.
He's a good boy because he's a wolf.
Oh my god. Oh, and Bella hits Jacob with
With
the
the door.
door.
I honestly don't think that was part of the movie. I think she genuinely hit him with the door while they were filming.
I think there's a bunch of places in this movie where she like does something clumsy and it wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, that was definitely something because it wasn't like I don't know. It felt like a very real. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with that door.
Hmm.
I thought it was so funny. But then once Jacob gets in the car, Bella says to him, she's like, "Oh, do you want to ride to school?" I was like, you flew in to Washington 20 minutes ago and you're going to school already?"
How does she even know where school
I
is?
know. I was like, what's happening here? It didn't make any sense. But then she does go right to school, and
Mhm.
she gets the very first parking spot in the parking lot right in front of the school.
Mm,
That's never gonna happen.
never. Remember when we were in high school and we had to walk like 15 minutes to get to school?
Well, I got the special parking spot. Well,
Why?
senior year, my mom got me the
Why?
special parking spot closer.
I hate you.
It was really nice in the snow. Didn't have to walk this far.
That's just rude.
But then I hit a bear and I didn't have my car. But anyway.
Just Pennsylvania
Yeah.
things.
But then this boy walks up to her as she walks into school and he's like, I am in charge of this school. Like, I'll guide you around. Like, I know everything. And he calls her Isabel. And I was like, same. That's me. Like, her name's
Should I call
Isabella.
you Bella from now on?
Please don't. But, like, he says her name wrong. He definitely said Isabel, but her name's Isabella.
Mm-hmm. He was also giving me like Damien from Mean Girls realness right there.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that one stereotypical character.
One. Just one.
Okay, maybe all of them. But that's not how high school's like.
No, not at all. Everyone's like, you're the talk of the town. Like, you're a big deal here. And, like, everyone knows her name and everything about her already.
Like, we grew up in a town that had fewer people than that, I'm pretty sure. And if you just showed up one day, no one would care.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just so weird. I hate the way high school is portrayed. Like, also, I love it. But at the same time, it's like, this would never happen.
Yeah. What I really liked about the portrayal of high school in this movie, though, is that no one was so, like, outrageously mean. Everyone was just normal and nice.
Yeah, that's true. Edward was a little weird, but
yeah. I don't count him because he's not the age of a high schooler.
Yeah, he's like 90.
Yeah.
Maybe 100. So then she is in gym class. They're playing volleyball, and she's wearing sweatpants in gym. Everyone else is wearing shorts. Like, we could never get away with that. We had a gym uniform, and you had to follow it. But then as they're playing volleyball, she hits a guy in the head with the volleyball. She just smacks it over and hits him in the head. And as soon as he turns around, he's like in love with her.
That's how that happens.
Mm-hmm. Love at first sight. I don't know his name. Like, he's in the entire
Mikey.
movie. I don't know.
Every movie we review, you're like, I don't know his name.
No, I couldn't tell you.
Character.
I know Bella and I know Edward, and I could give you some of the vampires' names.
Oh my god.
I couldn't tell you the rest.
Okay, I'll help you out along the way.
Okay.
His name is Mikey, or
okay.
Mike.
This is the blonde human named Mikey.
One of the several blonde humans in this movie.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, it's totally fine. And then her and Mikey are talking with Anna Kendrick.
Jessica.
And she knows everything about Bella already. Like, okay. Sure. So I guess at the gym, so while they're in gym class, she says to Bella, she's like, aren't people from Arizona supposed to be really tan? And Bella's like, yeah.
She was like, maybe that's why they kicked me out.
Like, what?
I thought that Jessica was going to be like the mean girl of the film, but then I realized that there was no mean girl of the film, so that's good at least.
Lee was kind of the mean girl.
Really? But then she turned out to be a G.
Not really.
What?
No, not at all.
She helped her in the end.
Because Edward forced her to.
No! She didn't want her to die, ever. Listen, we'll discuss this later.
And then they're at lunch, and the only other black character in the film runs up to Bella while she's sitting at lunch and kisses her on the cheek and is like, haha, Mikey, like, I took your girl or whatever. I was like, this is what?
That's not okay.
Like, what?
Like, why did they need to add that?
I don't know. I don't know if it was like in the book or if it, like, I don't know.
And why did it have to be the only black character that did that?
Yeah.
Love to know.
But also at their lunch table is Rosa from The Walking Dead.
Or Susie Crabgrass from Ned's Declassified.
I never watched that.
You need to.
I don't even know her name in this. What is her name?
I just wrote Susie Crabgrass. I think I wrote her name further on, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well, maybe we'll figure it out later. But she's like, well, I need to get some notes from you for the feature on you in our school newspaper. Because, of course, you feature the one new girl. Like,
No
what?
one does that.
But then Bella's like, oh, why don't you write about eating disorders or padding in swimsuits instead? I was like, what?
Why would
What?
she say
Like,
that?
what? Where do you come up with this?
I'd love to take a trip inside Bella's mind.
Just that sad word.
He can't read her
Oh, right.
mind.
Oh no.
We've gone too far.
um but then the Collins walk past the window and as they're walking in, Bella asks Jess like, "So what's up with those people?" And she was like, "Oh, well, they're all the doctor's children, but they're all foster kids and they all date each other, so it's like not weird." But kind of weird. And all I could think about was how you try to justify the clueless relationship with Cher and her stepbrother, Paul Rudd.
Oh,
You're like, it's not bad. They were only step siblings for a year.
yeah.
That's weird.
I still stand by it.
That's weird.
I also try to justify Callie's relationship with Brandon and the Fosters. But everyone thinks that's weird.
It is weird.
But they're not related by any means.
But it's weird.
Okay, but they're like 100 years old. What's your
Well, the
counter argument?
Collins, yeah. None of the others are.
Okay, listen, I didn't come on this podcast today to be crucified for my marriage and relationship beliefs.
Well, it was gonna happen as soon as they said that line.
I said what I said.
And I don't get it.
To change the topic, Edward walks in, and it's in slow-mo, of course, and Jessica says to Bella, "Oh, that's Edward. He's mysterious and hot, and I want him, but apparently no one at this school is good enough for him."
Yeah. They also, if you look at them, they just look like they put on too much setting powder that's like 3 shades too light for their skin tone.
Flashback Mary.
Like they did a terrible job with the makeup. And like on Amazon, like the X-ray thing, it was like, yeah, they're completely inconsistent with all of their makeup. Like sometimes they miss half of their neck and sometimes they miss their ears. I was like, how can you, like, this movie made millions of dollars. Like, how did you screw up that badly?
Well, if you'd like to know why everything seemed like an afterthought in this movie, such as the special effects and things like that and makeup,
The
it's
shininess?
because, yes, yes, it's because the producers thought that this movie was geared towards teenage girls and that it would make nothing, so they cut the budget $15 million, and the film ended up grossing over $300 million.
Who, like, that, like, people underestimate the power of teenage girls.
Yeah, as a One Direction stan myself, I know the power that teenage girls hold.
My entire TikTok right now is just, like, my For You page is just, like, Harry Styles. Like, over and over again.
Same. Today is actually the 2-year anniversary of when we touched Harry Styles.
He touched the side of our hands. I also slapped him in the back. I hate that I did that.
And it's also coming up on the anniversary of when we stalked Louis Tomlinson at Firefly,
Was that
the
the
music
next day?
festival.
Or the
Yeah.
day after? That was a good weekend.
That was a good weekend. And he looked at us with such a disappointing look.
I know. I felt bad, but at the same time, like, it was the greatest moment of my life.
Oh, yeah. It was also during SZA's set, so great music playing. Got to see Louis Tomlinson.
Great background music for stalking.
Yep. My dreams came true today.
So back to the movie. They're still at lunch, and there's just all this, like, really intense staring. the entire movie, but like this is where it started.
It makes me so uncomfortable.
I wrote in my notes like at least 10 times, this makes me so uncomfy.
Oh yeah.
And then they go to science class and it's even
This is my
more.
favorite scene.
As soon as she walks in, she stands in front of the fan and there's like this the air blows and like Edward looks like he's gonna either like throw up or pass out or both. And he's like covers his mouth and he's like trying not to gag. And she like looks at him and is like, "Oh my god, like is it me? Do I smell bad?"
Imagine walking into science class like the first day of school and they say this is your like partner for the year and he looks at you with the look of absolute disgust.
And he doesn't even he like shoves like I don't know what it is. It's like a little plastic container. He just like inches it over to her with his
His
finger.
hands shaking.
I would ask to like he asked to transfer it after this, but I would ask to transfer it. Like that's
That part killed me.
just like the zoom in on his face every time. His like mouth is like twitching and like he looks like he's
His
gonna
lip
cry.
his lip is quivering. So the bell rings and he barrels out faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, and then he goes to ask to transfer out of the class. And she walks in as he's asking.
And then he says, I'll just have to endure it, and looks at her and runs away.
Like, why would you want to get to know that person better? So then, for their first dinner after the first day of school, she goes with her dad to this diner where everybody knows who she is and she doesn't remember any of them. Like, that's my life. My mom
That's
introduced
how I
me.
feel.
But this creepy old man walks up and he's like, "Hey, Bella, do you remember me? I was Santa and you sat on my lap when you were a child." It was so creepy.
That was horrifying. And then she says something like butt crack Santa. Like,
Yeah.
what
I was like,
happened at Christmas?
that's disgusting.
Disgusting.
So then the next day at school, the Cullens are driving in, and I wrote the tall one is just standing up in the car because I don't remember
Oh,
his
yeah.
name. They're like just driving in with the roof off of their Jeep, and he's just like standing.
I was really hoping someone would slam on the brakes.
I thought he was gonna fall. And also the guy that kissed Bella on the cheek the day before, he's like friends with all the people she's becoming friends with too, which I didn't think they would be friends.
He's also throwing licorice at her. Like, is this movie sponsored by Twizzler? I would love to know because they're always eating licorice.
Are they really?
Yes, it comes up so many times.
Isn't like wasn't Twilight like a fanfic of something else?
Well, if you'd love to
No,
know.
I know what goes the other way, but I mean, I think Twilight was based off of something.
I think Stephanie Myers wrote this when she was 17, so that's why it's like a fanfic.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I thought it was based on something.
I don't think so, at least. Maybe it is. But yeah, so he's throwing licorice at her, and she just points to her book, like, ooh, look at me, I'm so quirky. I hate her.
Yeah, I don't like Bella, but at the same time, Edward, no.
They deserve each other. That's what I'll say. So it's the day after Edward said he was going to have to endure having Bella as a science partner. And of course, he didn't show up to school, hurting her feelings even more. As you could see, it's kind of sunny out, maybe alluding to something.
Like honestly, it's so obvious they're vampires. I don't know how anyone else didn't get it.
Maybe because vampires aren't real.
Yeah, but like every everyone in so many cultures there's like some version of a vampire. And like in every like fake world there should be like books about vampires, you know? Like how do they
Mhm.
not know? Like I would guess that right away.
So if someone said that, looked at you with absolute disgust and thought that you smelled bad and then didn't show up to school the next day, you would just automatically assume that they're a vampire.
I mean like what else could they be? So yeah, Bella's upset. Like where's Edward? Where is this love of her life? Turns out he might be at this plant chasing a guy around and attacking him. But we don't know.
Hmm.
Also, like while they were running through this plant with this guy being attacked, the people chasing him were like posing as they jumped. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I was like, what are
Yeah.
you doing?
Super cheesy.
Like, please
Once
stop.
again, special effects budget not there.
Yeah, that was definitely a post production. They just kind of were like, oh, we forgot about this.
Mhm.
So the next day, this is Bella. She's getting ready to go to school, and she was wearing these giant mittens, and she didn't have a coat on. First of all, who wears mittens without a coat? I would wear a coat before I
She's
wore
like never
mittens.
wearing a coat.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like awful weather up there.
And she always says that she hates the cold and she's always shivering. Like,
Like,
maybe put on some more clothes.
yeah, honestly. And the dad is like, oh, Charlie, not dad, Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie's like, yeah, I have to drive to this plant where this guy was killed. But also, this is where I like realized how prevalent police were and everything, and I was like, don't
Hmm.
feel great about that.
Okay, so Bella slips in the ice, which is, oh, I'm so
Oh,
quirky. I'm so
right, right,
clumsy. I'm not
right.
like most girls. And then her dad also says that he replaced the tires because it's getting icy.
That's so obvious. Like, I did pick up on that, but I didn't write it down. But like,
Once again, I feel like the makers of this movie thought that we were stupid. Like, you didn't need to add both the foreshadows. You could have just added, like, her slipping on the ice or the tires. You didn't need to add two.
yeah. So after that, they're back in biology class, and Edward is back, and like when she walks over to the table, he's like, "Hiya." What? And then he just stares at her.
Also, they're examining onions. Like, how romantic.
And they all just like know what they are. But they're also just like shoving it back and forth at each other. Like it's a very like weird kind of flirting. Like I don't know. And then he asks her about the weather and then she's like, "Why would you ask me about the weather? That's so weird." But also like they're so uncomfortable with each other. Like what else are you going to say?
Yeah, and then he asks if she enjoys the rain, and then she starts shaking and,
Like
like, quivering, and she says she doesn't like the cold.
so in the while watching this section, the general trivia in the X-ray version of Amazon, it said that in this movie, Bella smiles over 35 times. I was like, "What? Like how do you only smile 35 times in this 2-hour movie?" Okay, so after class, he like walks her to her locker and keeps asking her about her life. And it's super weird, like just like the way he's asking her, and then all of a sudden, like she's answering and then like asks him a question, and he just like immediately turns and fast walks away.
What I was confused about this scene is that he's wearing a short sleeve t shirt.
Like
It's freezing
obviously
cold
he's
out.
not.
Everyone else is wearing coats. Like, why? He also explains that she asks why his eyes turn from black to
Like
whatever
yellow.
color, yellowish, and he says it's the fluorescent lights. And I personally feel like I was called out because I always people are always like, your eyes are gray, and I say no, they're green. They just change depending on the lighting.
Mine changed depending on what I'm wearing.
Oh my god, we're so quirky.
Ask my mom, she says it too.
I hate us.
But then like she's going out into her car to go home. The one guy is like driving into the parking lot and like he loses control and like is careening towards Bella, but right before this Bella and Edward had been making weird staring eye contact at each other, and she saw that he was halfway across the parking lot. But then as this car comes towards her, all of a sudden Edward is right there next to her and he stops the car by putting his hand out, and there's a dent in the car but not in her. But then like the one thing I didn't get is like why did she have to go to the hospital? Like couldn't they have just checked her vitals there? Like she was like obviously like yeah, call 911 and like have someone come out, but like check him and like take him to the hospital, just check her vitals. Like I don't know.
Well, from what they can see, the car hit her. Like, they didn't really
Oh, I
see.
guess no one saw Edward like leave or
Edward moved
anything.
so fast that they just saw the car like flying towards her and a dent in it.
Yeah.
So they thought that it hit her. And like after a car accident, you might not feel pain exactly because your adrenaline is rushing so much. So she might not have felt pain. That's probably what they're concerned about.
Oh, I was gonna say I've never been in a car accident, but that's a lie. I hit a bear.
Yep.
um. So at the hospital, um, Dr. Cullen comes in, like the Collins' adopted dad, foster dad. And you can tell they didn't do a great job with the makeup here because his hands are a completely different color than his face.
Mm-hmm.
But also like why would a vampire work at a hospital? Like there's so much blood. Like I get that
Because,
they're like reformed or whatever, but being around that much blood, like wouldn't that be incredibly difficult?
well, I think that he's been doing it for so long that he doesn't feel those urges, and also he does it so he can save people if they're about to die, like young people. But also in this scene, Charlie was being so mean to that kid.
I know.
Like, you can't just revoke someone's driver's license for something that wasn't even their fault. It's not up to Bella's dad, who's also a cop, to just say
Yeah.
you're not getting your license back, blah blah blah.
He also like couldn't be involved in that case because that's way too personal, but whatever.
Hmm.
Um yeah.
They also shouldn't have had school if it were that icy out.
So at the hospital, once Bella's like being discharged or whatever, she also overhears Edward and I don't know his name, like the dad, just like oh Carlisle?
Who?
Is that the dad's name? Carlisle?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So Edward Carlisle and Rosalie are talking about how he shouldn't have saved her. But also, like at this point, Edward walked up to Bella and is like super mean to her. And I was like, why does everyone hate Bella and her awkwardness, but they don't hate Edward? Because Edward sucks. And he's so mean and just like stares all the time. Like how do you find that attractive?
I don't know. Also, every time he talks to Bella, they both look like they're
Yeah, they
constipated.
look like they're in pain.
Like, why is it so painful to talk to each other? He just like saved your life, Bella. Why are you fighting him?
Yeah, there's just like a lot of like I don't get it. After the hospital though, she's like at home in bed and like you see him and she's like, and that was the first night I dreamt of Edward. I was like, this is weird. He's in your room. Like you're not dreaming. He's there.
You're not dreaming, sweetie. Sweaty.
But like also where do all these like vampire myths align? Like vampires have to be invited in sometimes.
Also, aren't they not visible on
Right?
camera
Because they
or
take a
in
picture
mirrors?
later. And I was like,
Or the whole ballet room scene.
yeah. I don't know. Like where do you decide like what works and what like do you just like get to pick and choose?
Maybe it's explicitly written in the books.
Like it's
I
weird.
don't know. Maybe we should have read the books too.
No. I'm not doing it. But she wakes up the next morning and like she's at school and they're going on a field trip. But before they go on the field trip, Mikey asks Bella to prom and Bella is just staring at Edward the whole time. So she hears none of what he says. Like you'd think he'd like catch that her eyes were like nowhere near him and just like follow it and see Edward.
Hmm.
But she's like, no, I have to go to Jacksonville because apparently that's where her mom moved. And she's like, oh, maybe you should ask Jess. She wants to go. And like,
Also, her main reason though, besides the Jacksonville thing, is she says prom, dancing, not such a good idea for me. I'm so quirky. Ugh.
like, same, I can't dance, but it's your prom. I don't know.
Yeah. She makes it seem like liking high school things is such a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, you're allowed to like prom. That's okay.
But then they go on their field trip is to a greenhouse, and the whole time Edward is talking to Bella, but also it's like he's trying to stay inconspicuous and like I'm not a vampire, but he also brings up all these impossible things that he did that there's no way he could have done
Mhm.
as a normal person.
Mhm.
Like obviously she's going to figure it out.
So to prompt the conversation, he just straight up like starts talking to her, and she says, "You don't even say hi to me," and he goes, "Hi."
Yeah. And honestly, like I don't get why there was ever a debate between Team Edward or Team Jacob. Like I'm Team Jacob all the way because Edward sucks.
Well, we don't know yet. We have to watch all the movies before we can come to
I've
our
come to my
final conclusion.
conclusion.
Also, she trips and falls just walking normally, which I can relate to, but like, ugh, it's so annoying. And he picks her up and catches her from falling.
He does that a lot.
It's so annoying.
Like, yeah, I get she's clumsy, but she doesn't have to be falling over every scene.
I feel like they always go too far with their points here. She's clumsy, we get it. She doesn't need to make it known in every single line that she says and every single scene that she's clumsy. We
Especially
get it.
at the end, like their whole justification for her breaking her leg is she's super clumsy. She fell down 2 flights of stairs and rolled out a window. Like, but yeah. Then they're back at this school, and honestly, this movie just fills me with so much secondhand embarrassment. I can't. Like, just all they're staring back and forth at each other. But then they, like, she's at a salad bar in the cafeteria or whatever, and she's, like, decorating her salad. I'm like, what was the point of that? Like, yeah, it's pretty, but okay.
How come Bella never has a good vegetarian option anywhere?
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate, especially, like, for Washington. But she also, like, every time she talks to Edward, she's like, I know something's wrong. Like, I know this is a mask. Like, I know blah, blah, blah. Like, why does she pretend that she can read him when she can't?
Also, why does she care?
Right? Like, he's never nice to her.
Yeah. I feel like everyone wears a mask sometimes,
Yeah.
especially in high school. Why
Especially in
does she need to.
quarantine.
Yeah. Stop. Why does she need to harass him about who he really is?
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
But also, then she just, like, asks him to go to the beach with them. I don't know. Like, what? Like, why? But then,
They also speak in cliches.
yeah.
Everything that they say is a cliche.
But then they go to the beach, which they call the push. Um, and, like, all of them know how to surf. Is there any surfing in Washington?
I don't think so.
Like, what? But then all I think it's so funny. Like, all the boys freak out when they find out that Bella invited Edward. They all are like, what? Like, no. Like, why? Like, you can't all be in love with her. I'm sorry.
I was wondering myself why she invited Edward too, so.
Yeah. Not for the same reasons, but so then they're at
Also, here they are eating Twizzlers again.
were they really?
Yes.
Oh. I did not notice that. Probably because in the next scene they're at this boathouse and this guy is in a boat, obviously. He hears like noise in the boathouse and then these three vampires jump into his boat and eat him. I feel like they're like it's not like they're just sucking his blood. They like really attack. Like every single vampire thing, they always pretend it's an animal attack. So it's got to be like really bad for anyone to believe it's an animal attack, right?
Mhm. Yeah, because you have to cover up all like the bite marks and
Yeah.
stuff.
But also like if there's that many animal attacks in a town, I'm going to say it's a vampire because I've seen enough vampire movies and TV shows to be like you've got a vampire on your hands.
I was gonna say it's a bear, so.
Okay, like there's not that many bears. Maybe in
Yes,
Washington.
there are.
But in
Last year, a bear was running rampant in my town.
like Virginia where the Vampire Diaries is, there's not that many bears.
You never know. Have you ever? Oh, I was
Have
gonna
you
say,
ever
have you ever
seen a
seen?
bear? Yes, I have.
Sorry if I just triggered you. Also, at the same time, Jacob and his pals are at the beach, and Jacob begins telling Bella the story of the Cullens and his tribe and how they've been fighting for years because they're wolves and vampires.
But he's
And
like,
Bella
no, it's
just,
just a story.
yeah, it's just a story, even though uh, your boyfriend may or may not be a vampire. Wink, wink.
Yeah, he's not very like conspicuous, but he's like,
Oh, and also, Bella wonders why Edward is not there. And Jessica explains that whenever the weather gets warm, the Cullens disappear to hike.
yeah, that's when they're back at school, and they're talking
Oh,
about because
oops.
it's like getting closer to prom, but
Yikes, oops.
they also talk about how they should go prom dress shopping. Um, so that's what they do next, and which is in a town that has this bookstore that has lots of books on this legend that Jacob had told Bella. So that's why she's like really excited to go there. So they're in the prom dress shop, and like Jess and Rosa from The Walking Dead are trying on dresses, and
Ugly dresses.
yeah, they're really not great. Um, but these boys like knock on the window and they're like, "Oh, you look so good." It's just like it's disgusting.
But while the girls are trying on prom dresses, Bella says, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the bookstore because I'm so
And
quirky."
she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be back in a minute." Like 5 hours later.
She never returns.
Yeah, it's completely dark when she leaves the bookstore. Like no one called to check up on you. Like apparently they did, but her phone was dead.
I'm not buying the story.
Me neither. But as she leaves the bookstore, she like walks down this dark alley and there's people at the end of it. And then she goes back the other way to avoid them, and then these boys are in front of her. So they surround her pretty much, and then all of a sudden this wild Volvo comes into the
I
parking.
wrote it was a Volvo too. It comes whipping in,
Yeah.
does a hockey stop.
It's like insane how he's driving. It's like Baby Driver. Like the way he's driving.
In a Volvo.
Yeah. And then he gets out of the car and he like growls at them. He's like, grr. And he's like staring at them. Like, what? What?
I would run away too,
Like,
honestly.
that's weird. Like, that's so weird.
Imagine someone in a Volvo doing that and then growling at you.
Someone just hops out of their car, growls at you.
I'd run.
Yeah, I'd run too. But the way like it's supposed to be like menacing and like, oh my god, he's so scary. Not like, what is this man doing? Like, this is weird.
Roar XD.
um, and then he goes to drive off, and then he also does the insane like whips the car around like they're gone, they're not coming after you, don't worry. Like calm down. Like what?
Do you think this whole movie was also sponsored by Volvo?
Honestly, probably.
There goes that was their whole special effects and stunt budget,
Honestly.
hiring that driver to drive the Volvo.
No, it was Edward. It was definitely
Oh,
Edward.
sorry. He trained for that.
um
But also, I was so concerned about that I almost forgot the fact that he was stalking her.
yeah, he was just stalking her. Like, why are you not concerned about that? Like, and then they go to a restaurant and they finally see her two friends. They're like, we've been calling you, like we've been blah blah blah. Like, why didn't you call the police? She's been gone for who knows how long. But she's like, oh yeah, I guess I should eat something. Yes, I will eat with you. It was very weird how she was like, yeah, let's go eat. But he doesn't order anything. He just sits there and watches her eat. Like, I'd be so
Oh,
uncomfortable. I wouldn't eat anything.
imagine going on a date with someone and ordering this super filling pasta dish, and the guy is just like, I'm not hungry. I'm on a diet.
Like, what? I'd feel so self-conscious.
I would not eat a bite.
Like, it's already kind of weird to, like, go on a date with someone and, like, eat. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, weird to me.
Ugh. I hate eating dates because you can never. I don't know. I just overthink when I'm ordering.
Yeah. Like, I've been on dates.
You've had so many consistent boyfriends. How
So many.
so many?
2.
Okay, that's two more than me. I'm so lonely. Oh wait. He, she demands that he gives her answers, and then he starts listing off the square root of pi,
Right? I was
which
like,
is random in itself. And then she says, "Why are you listing off pi? I want real answers." And he seems to be shocked that she knows that. Like, I feel like any high schooler kind of vaguely knows the square root of pi.
yeah, I kind of vaguely know it. But then he says, like, he's a mind reader. He's like, I can read everybody's mind but yours.
And then imagine if someone says that to you and you're like, okay, what's this person thinking? He goes, money, sex,
Cat.
cat. I would not believe them.
Like, what? Like,
How is
generally,
that?
yes, I could assume that people are thinking about money.
I could do that to you and you would not believe that I can read your people's minds. Especially everyone but hers. How suspicious could that possibly be?
Yeah, like, we do have, like, our own little connection. Like, I will say there's something there. But I can't read everybody else's mind. Um, yeah, so then he's like, oh, I'll just drive you home then. Um, and they go to touch the radio or, like, turn the volume, and she's like, your hands are so cold. Like, I'd be a vampire if you went off, your hands are cold. My hands are freezing all the
Really?
time.
Oh, my hands are always either cold and clammy or like sweaty. There is no in between.
My hands are sweaty right now.
Mine too.
It's that connection of both of sweaty.
Palm sweaty. But also, he says, I do not have the strength to stay away from you anymore. And she says,
Then don't.
then don't. Ew!
Like, stay away from him.
Stay away from this creepy stalker 90-year-old man. Like, go away.
So they're driving home. Then they stop at the police station, and her dad, like, says it's an animal attack. And then we're at, I guess it's at school or something, but she's standing near, or he's standing, and then she just brushes past him and starts walking into the woods. Yeah, then he just follows her into the woods, which is super weird. And, like, it's like she planned this confrontation, like, it had to be in the woods. Like, you could have done this anywhere, and you chose the middle of the woods.
Yeah, but it's not as romantic anywhere else.
That's not romantic at all.
None of this is romantic, but I'm just
Trying to justify it.
Yeah.
But, like, he forces her to say what she thinks he is. Like, clearly she knows. Like, I don't need you to tell me because I know and you know, so we both know.
She also goes, how long have you been 17? And he says,
A while.
a while. I would just think that he's aloof, honestly. I don't think I would have put 2 and 2 together that he's a vampire.
Yeah, you wouldn't have.
I just don't think I believe in vampires.
But also, like, I was thinking, like, imagine if he really weren't a vampire and he just had really bad circulation and was cold all the time. And he was like, what are you talking about?
He's not a vampire, he's just anemic.
Yeah. And then he, like, grabs her and puts her on his back and just starts running. Like,
the special effects,
like,
you can tell. $15 million cut.
Yeah. And he's like, you need to see me in the sun. I'm shiny. Like he just like rips open his shirt, turns
Of
around.
course, they have to pan up his abs.
She's like, it's like diamonds.
He thinks his sparkles are ugly. Really?
Like he's like, they're the mark of a killer. Like I'm a killer. Like first of all, who says killer? You would definitely say murderer. And second, like it's not that weird.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, you're a little oily. It's okay.
Need a little setting powder. Also, he explains that he was built to be a predator. Like, that's why he's so hot, and that's why he smells nice and has nice hair to draw girls in so he can attack
That
them.
doesn't make sense though, because he wasn't born a vampire. Like
Exactly!
what?
I don't get it.
And also, like I've never heard of another vampire legend that's like, yep, we're shiny in the sun.
He also starts randomly running around and ripping roots out of the
Yeah.
ground for
He's
no
like, look at me,
reason.
like I can't like what? And then he just jumps into a tree and is staring down at her while she's like craning her neck looking up at him. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and then he's also explaining that he's killed people before and that he wants her blood so badly. And then she says, I trust you. I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. I'm just afraid of you leaving.
Like, when did
Like,
she
you've known him for 2
like
months.
when did she fall in love with him, first of all? Like,
Yeah.
he was just telling you that he would kill you, and you're like, I'm in love with you.
And they haven't even kissed. What if he's a bad kisser? What if he has bad breath? So she says that there are 3 things that she knows about Edward. 1, he's a vampire.
I wrote that down. I have it.
2, he wants to eat her. And 3, she's in love with him?
I wrote
What?
no, 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 no. Like, what?
I am baffled.
These are the only 3 things you're positive of.
Hmm.
Okay.
And now they're like official, even though they haven't kissed.
But then they like go back to school and they're like official, and Edward drives her to school, and everyone's
In
just
his Volvo.
and they're all just like staring at them, including his siblings. And it's just so funny, like the disdain on everyone's face. And they're like talking to each other. Like it's just like different scenes of them talking about Edward's life. And he's like, yeah, I was dying of the Spanish flu. And I was like, huh, how
Interesting.
so how like poignant now.
Also, he explains that Carlisle saved him from dying right before he was about to die, and there's nothing they could do about it. He turned him so he'd be immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, and then he says, I'm like a human vegetarian. You eat tofu, but nothing really satisfies you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm satisfied with some nice tofu. I don't know about you, Edward, but I love tofu.
So then they're at Bella's house, and honestly, like you like see him laugh for the first time at in this scene, and I was like, wow, he seems normal. Like if you weren't so grumpy and weird all the time, like you could be a more convincing human.
I mean, he does act just like a 90-year-old man, but in a teenager's hot body.
It's so weird.
Ew.
Oh god. Um but then he leaves the house, and he's like driving away, and there's just like intense like staring between Jacob's dad and Edward as he drives past.
Mhm.
So you're like thinking about that story that Jacob told earlier. So Edward then brings Bella to his house. Like this is their first like meeting the family. And I was like, why are you cooking? She's the only one who would eat. Like that's going to be weird. And then she like walks in, and they're like,
Well, also, it's not even that they're cooking something. They're cooking Italian food, which aren't vampires supposed to be allergic to garlic?
yeah,
So why would they make Italian food?
I could not tell you. And then Bella's like, oh, great. Like that sounds so good. And then Edward's like, she already ate. And Rosalie just like shatters a bowl. She's so mad that she already ate. Like, Yeah, like, it's kinda good she already ate, like, it'd be so weird if she's the only one eating.
I guess, but they were just trying to be nice.
No, I get what they were doing, but also, like, why is Rosalie so mad?
Also, what would happen if they ate?
Yeah, and we've seen them eat, like, Edward eats at lunch sometimes.
Yeah. So
Like, I don't know
I'm
why
sure
that'd
they
be
would sit
weird.
down and have a meal if they physically could eat. Why wouldn't they?
But for some reason, I hated this scene and I said, "I want to scream, Lauren, why did you make me watch this?" And then you see this wall of, like, all their graduation caps, which I thought was super funny. Like, I
That
love
was
them.
funny.
Um, and they go to Edward's room, and she's like, "Why is there no bed?" And he's like, "Well, I don't sleep." I was like, I could never be a vampire. Like, I like to sleep too much.
Maybe they just find other things to do with their time. Like watch people sleep.
That's so weird.
Also, the door in his room is just open
To the
to nothing.
outside. Yeah.
It's just a hill.
They just jump out the window.
Oh, and he calls
There's
her.
spider monkey. I was like, if
Ugh.
anyone ever calls me that, I'm gonna scream.
If someone ever said, "Oh, my little spider monkey," I would break up with them right then and there.
Like, that's not a good nickname. I'm sorry. But also, Rosalie calls whoever her guy is her monkey later. I hate that. I hate that. Like, I guess
Wasn't
some
that
people like it, but I hate it.
um didn't one of your past boyfriends
Please
call you
don't.
monkey?
Please don't. I hate it.
uh Hypocrite.
I'm not saying I didn't call anybody that. I didn't like to be called that. I hate it. So after he calls her spider monkey, they're just casually hanging out in a tree, hundreds of feet in the air.
And then the Twilight theme starts playing.
It's called like Bella's
Isn't it?
Lullaby.
Yeah. And now I realize why when I was in middle school, every girl that we knew how to play this song on the
Yeah.
piano.
And then after the lullaby plays, they go to school and Mikey like walks up to Bella and is like, "So are you and Edward together?" And she was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I don't like it." Like, what? Like, I'm sorry, you don't get an opinion.
Okay, well, I think he does because his opinion is very much accurate. He says that Edward looks at Bella like she's a meal.
That is true, but also like they're not like really good friends. Like
I
he
guess.
just he just had a crush on her and that's why he doesn't like it. So after school, they're at that diner again. But after dinner, she's talking with her mom and like saying like, "You know what? I like really like Washington. It's growing on me." And her mom was like, "Oh, is this because of a boy?" And she was like, "Yeah, there's this boy I've been seeing." And then Edward just like jumps into her room and he admits that he's been watching her sleep for several months.
And instead of being put off by that, it turns her on.
Yeah. And he was like, "Wait, I want to try something." It's like, "What?"
Ugh.
And then he like
Please don't try anything.
it was like centimeters at a time over like 20 seconds, like slowly moving closer to her. I was like, "This is weird."
But then they fully kiss, and then they start making out, and then he freaks out
Yep.
and tells her to stop. That's the only time they kiss in this movie, I'm pretty sure, right?
No, at the end.
Oh,
At-
okay. There's two kisses in the
Mhm.
movie. Sorry, can't be a Disney film now.
And after this, he like jumps out of her window or whatever. And she goes downstairs and tells her dad that she's gonna go on a date with Edward Cullen, and he wants to meet him, or Edward wants to meet the dad officially, and the dad like takes his gun and like flips it up, and like I don't know, like just like puts it together and is like, "All right, let's meet him," which I thought was funny. Um,
Especially because he's a police officer.
yeah. So then he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go play baseball." And then this is the scene that like you can see on Instagram all the time. They say that the only reason they can play baseball when there's a thunderstorm is because when they hit it, the crack is so loud. Um, but the first pitch is like Alice to Rosalie, and I don't like. Wouldn't she definitely be faster than him running to get the ball? Like the ball's so much farther than the length of the baseball field. Like there's no way that she could have possibly been out. Like logistically as vampires, like she would have had the upper hand there. Then the other vampires show up. It's
The subtitles for this part say ominous rock music playing. Just thought I'd add that in.
they also look like they're floating. Like I think they were on like some sort of like those moving things in an airport. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So then they're like, "Oh, like we want to play baseball too." And they're like, "Okay." And then the wind blows Bella's hair, and the one guy he like catches a whiff of her scent or whatever, and he like freaks out, and they all go hiss. Like, they go and then they're like, Bella, you need to leave, like you need to get out of here. And she pretends to break up with Edward as like she walks into the house. um and she like runs up to her room and is like, I have to pack, like I have to leave, dad, like blah 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 blah. And then she says these awful things to her father, and is like, and as she walks out she's like, that's exactly what my mom said to my dad when she left him. It's like, what kind of terrible person do you have to be to do that?
Wouldn't it have just been easier to tell him the truth?
Like honestly, like she could have said anything else, like been like, I just like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to like go, like I need to go to my friend's house, like I need to do something, like I just like feel really upset. Like what she said is so awful.
Yeah,
Like
it hurt his feelings. But then her mom isn't answering her phone as per usual because she sucks.
yeah.
And then Edward and all his buddies are putting their scent around, and Rosalie is helping. That's
But
why she's a
because
G.
no, because Edward was like, put these on, and she's like, why? Like what's in it for me?
Yeah, but what is in it for her?
I don't know. Like she helps, but
Exactly.
like barely.
I think that she didn't have to help because Bella sucks.
She didn't have to help. She wouldn't have unless she was forced into it like she was.
But she wasn't forced. She
Yeah,
has
she
her
was.
own free will. What would have happened if she didn't?
I don't know. Anyway. So then they're all like driving in different directions, and Rosalie has Bella's clothes on to try and confuse him. But like confuse James. But I don't know. I feel like he should be smarter than that. Like if one person's scent is that strong, like wouldn't it be a lot stronger on the actual person?
Also, why couldn't they just hop on a flight and fly somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wouldn't that have just been the easiest?
Yeah. But also like at this point they go to this hotel or whatever. Like she's with Alice and Jasper, and Alice is like, all of a sudden she's like, he's changed his mind. She's like, oh, the future has changed. But I was like, I thought she could only see the future, not that he's currently changed his mind or changed his direction. That was just like weird to me that before Edward called her, she knew that he had changed things.
Maybe she was seeing things right after they, or right before they happened.
Maybe. I don't know. So the evil guy calls Bella, and like it's her mom's voice saying like, Bella, where are you? Like where are you? And then is like, meet me at this ballet studio that Alice had like seen in a vision right before, and he was like, come alone. So she makes it to this ballet studio, and she hears her mom's voice again, but I was like, it's the exact same video. Like it's the exact same audio that was playing on the phone, so like why wouldn't she know that?
She's stupid.
Yeah. Um and then like he's behind her, like, and he's like videotaping it. Like I was like, why did, like I don't get that. But
I also don't understand why she wouldn't tell the rest of the group so they could make a plan.
yeah, like
And if worse comes to worse, she could just go on her own.
Like,
Like, why wouldn't she try?
well, he said to come alone, but I don't get why she didn't tell them. Like, she could have just told them, walked in alone, and had them all there.
Yeah, because obviously all of those vampires can overpower him,
Yeah, I don't know.
which they did. So why wasn't that the plan from the beginning? Why did they need to go all this way?
I could not tell you. But then she like pepper sprays him, which is like her dad gave her pepper spray before.
It
Um,
did nothing.
did absolutely nothing. Um, she tried to run away, and then like he's still videotaping, and then he breaks her leg, and
And
then
it was like crunch.
and then he bit her. But then everyone else like shows up because I guess they were probably following her. Um, and I was like, wow, like how does she not become a vampire from this? Um,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
then
and Edward's the first one to show up,
yeah, Edward's the first one
and
to.
he drop kicks James.
But then he also like rips a chunk of his throat out or something.
Yeah, that was
I was
nasty.
like, what are you doing? And then Alice comes in and they're like, and then she rips his head off.
Oh, and they didn't want Edward to be the one that killed him because they wanted him to remember who he was. But hasn't he killed people before?
Yeah. But then they're like doing literally nothing to help Bella while she's like on the floor in absolute pain. I was like, what are you doing? But then Carlisle's like, yeah, you can just suck the venom out. But why did they make Edward do that?
Why wouldn't they make Carlisle do
Right?
it?
Like
He was
Edward
just sitting there.
Edward doesn't have control. Why would you pick why would you pick him?
I don't know. All I have so Edward starts sucking, and then all I have in my notes is Edward, stop sucking because he was going too far.
Yeah.
And then there is a dumb montage of their brief time together.
Yeah, like but then they're in the hospital and her mom's sitting on the bed and she's saying, "Oh yeah, so you actually just were mad and you left and then Edward was trying to get you and then you fell down 2 flights of stairs and rolled out a window."
Oh, and you have this mysterious bite mark on your
Like
arm.
what? Who would believe that? Like no one's that clumsy. I'm sorry.
I actually broke my leg and didn't know, so
Yeah, we didn't
wait,
fall down 2 flights of stairs and out a window and forget
true.
or like
True.
but her mom's like, "Yeah, Edward hasn't left. He's asleep over there." Like vampires don't sleep.
He's not sleeping, Mom.
And then Edward's like, "I don't think I should be around you anymore. Like this is dangerous." And then she freaks out. She's like, "You can't leave. Like I need you." Blah blah blah. And then they're getting ready for prom.
Cute.
Cute. It's like she does look really pretty,
She does. Even with her boot.
but she's also wearing a Converse on the other foot. And I was just thinking how my senior year prom date did that. So shout out to Levi.
But I also have to say, no offense, but girls who wear Converse to prom and make it a huge deal
They're so
are
quirky and
so
fun.
annoying. I
Quirky and
hate it.
different.
I get it if you want to wear Converse to prom. By all means, go ahead. But don't make it a huge deal.
I know.
Oh, it was also such a pretty location to have prom.
Yeah, it was really nice. Like with the gazebo outside.
Hmm.
But also when they're walking into prom, they take a picture. I was like, you
Hmm.
can't do that. Vampires don't show up. Like
Exactly.
what?
Oh, but before we even get there, Jacob shows up to prom
Hmm.
and says his dad paid him to talk to her about how he should stay away from Edward. I guess it's kind of alluding to something. I think the next film you get more into Jacob's life
Oh, okay.
and his family, but that's what it's alluding to right
I was
now.
just surprised like she didn't find out about Jacob. Like I thought that would happen. Like I thought that was like a big part of it, but I guess it's the second movie.
Yeah. Obviously, if the story's true for half of the tribes, I guess, or families, the story should be true for the other.
Yeah. And then the prom looked so perfect. I got really jealous because that's all I want.
Hmm. Then she's dance. Oh,
Yeah, they're like dancing out in the gazebo, and she's like, "I want to be a vampire."
and then they start talking about forever, but they've only been on 3 dates. Like, how do
Yeah.
you know that you're compatible with someone? You've been on 3 dates. You've kissed them one time at this point.
Yeah, and then once right
Not,
after this.
yeah. So why are you talking about forever? You're only 17 or 16, and he's 90.
Yeah.
Also, his forever is way longer than yours.
I like I don't know. I just glad he stopped.
Hmm.
Cuz like he was about to and it was like really weird how he was doing it. He like dipped her back like oh, like they were dancing or something, but then was like right at her neck. Oh, it was weird. It was weird.
Oh, and then we find out that Victoria was watching the whole time.
Oh, is that her name?
Yeah, I figured it out at the end.
Yeah, so that's the girl with
The
like
ginger.
yeah, the girl with the red hair.
And finally, the movie is finished.
It's over. Don't watch it.
Okay, I've done nothing but trash this movie the entire time, but I bet you $100 that after we finish recording and after I, weird coincidence, am donating my plasma later, I'm going to watch the second movie
I
after.
know I kind of want to watch it
Should
cuz
we
like
watch it?
I want to know what Jacob does cuz he did nothing in this one.
I know. I wish we could watch it together.
Maybe we can figure it out. But I wouldn't rewatch it. That's what I'll say. Like
Me
I
too.
love rewatching movies. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've done it several times in quarantine.
You know how I leave you with the question at the end of this?
Yeah.
The question I'm leaving you right now with is, are you team Edward or team Jacob?
Well, I told you. I said I'm team Jacob because Edward sucks, but also we know nothing about Jacob. So,
Yeah.
from what I know from the fourth one, or I guess it's the fifth one though. From what I know, like I still like Jacob more.
I mean, at this point we know nothing about Jacob, but he's one of the few people in the movie that haven't screwed up.
And he didn't stalk her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Except he is kind of obsessed with her. He keeps asking his dad when he can see her.
But like also it's probably because like he's like am I allowed to see Bella because of Edward, like, you know? Because of their
No,
whole thing.
I think he has a huge crush on
Well, of
her
course he
and
has
is
a
also.
huge crush on her.
Why does every guy in this movie have a crush on Bella? Like, yes, she's really pretty, but also there are so many other pretty girls at the school.
Yeah. Gotta move on.
Speaking of moving on, we need to move on.
This needs to end. But before we move on, we just wanted to remind you all to check out our Instagram to join in on our weekly guess that, or I guess it'll be weekly again starting now. Guess the movie of the week on our Instagram at How Have We Never Podcast, and then you can also check us out on Facebook at How Have We Never Seen This Before. That's all for now. Hopefully, we have a better movie next week. But well,
Glad to be back.
yeah, good
Glad
to
to
be
be
back.
back.
But yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, congratulations, you've made it to the end of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. How Have We Never Seen This Before is produced by Isabel and Lauren. The music is by Scott Holmes. The podcast art is by Michael Beaumont over at Monitor Comics, and our social media is run by Lauren Cola. Thanks for listening.